All right, let's jump right in. We're going to be talking about how to redesign English as a foreign language curricula. And, it's something we have to talk about because AI has completely changed the game for education, and we desperately need a new playbook. So first things first, we've got to acknowledge the new reality in any classroom. There is this massive shift happening. You could call it a core problem, or maybe it's a huge opportunity, but either way, it's something every single educator has to face now. This quote really nails it. Even if all the phones are put away, AI is in the room. It's this invisible third presence that every student has in their pocket. And just ignoring it, that doesn't make it disappear. It just means we're blind to how our students are really learning. So the challenge isn't about banning AI. It's about bringing it out into the open so we can be intentional about how it's used. And this forces us as educators to face a really central dilemma. Is AI going to be a ladder or is it going to be a crutch? I mean, think about it. A ladder helps you climb way higher than you could on your own, but you still have to do the work, right? You have to push, you have to balance, it builds strength. A crutch, on the other hand, it replaces the work. It feels helpful for sure, but over time, it weakens the very muscles it's supposed to be supporting. So the question we have to ask ourselves is, are we designing tasks that extend our students' reach, or are we just removing the struggle? To make sure we're actually building ladders, we need a solid guiding principle. And that principle is pretty simple. We have to put the human, not the technology, at the absolute center of our design. So where do you even start? Well, not with the fancy apps or the latest AI plugins. You start with this fundamental question right here. Just forget about the tech for a second and ask, what skills are still going to be valuable when AI gets even faster and even cheaper? When you start from that place, the answer isn't about prompt engineering. It's about durable, deeply human skills. And this is such a critical shift in thinking. AI just becomes a tool, a means to accelerate human development, not the end goal itself. The point isn't to get good at using AI. The point is to use AI to get better at being human, at thinking critically, making tough judgments, and developing a unique voice. Now, what's really fascinating here is how these skills are defined. We're talking about cultivating taste to judge quality, momentum to keep going when things get tough, agency to actually steer your own learning projects, velocity to iterate and adapt on the fly, a long-term intent horizon, and my personal favorite, interruptibility, which is just that resilience to recover when your plan completely falls apart. These are the muscles AI simply can't replace. Okay, so how do you actually do this in a classroom? Well, here's a simple but really powerful idea, the assistant role. Just think of AI as this incredibly fast, super helpful junior assistant. It can spit out options, it can suggest different paths, but it never gets the final say. The human, whether it's the student or the teacher, always retains final authority. This keeps the hierarchy crystal clear. Human taste over machine fluency. All right, so we've got our why, this human first principle. Now let's get into the how. Let's look at a really practical framework for actually designing tasks for the classroom. What I love about this 3-layer approach is just how intentional it is. First, you design a without AI baseline. What's the core human-only version of this task? Second, you design a with AI enhancement, figuring out precisely where AI can act as that ladder to speed things up. And third, and this is so important, you deliberately create a no AI zone, a protected space for those essential skills, like writing a first draft, where students really need to hear their own unassisted voice. So how do we bring this whole framework to life? The trick is to think beyond just simple exercises. Instead, we should be designing what the source here calls micro worlds. Basically, they're like little games. They have rules and incentives that explicitly reward the human skills we want to see. If your game rewards thoughtful judgment and real initiative, students will naturally start using AI as a partner, not as an escape hatch. Okay, let's get real for a second. Applying all these big ideas isn't always a walk in the park. You have to navigate the messy, real-world complexities of an actual classroom. And to help stay on track, there's this great little technique called the double checkbox. It's super simple. For every single activity you design, you identify 2 targets. One is a specific language goal, like use hedging expressions, and the other is a specific human skill goal, like practice that interruptibility skill. This simple check prevents what's called skill drift, where an activity is fun, but doesn't actually build the skills you meant it to. And we absolutely cannot ignore the real world constraints. We have to be upfront about data privacy. We've got to deal with the inequity of who has access to a good device and reliable Wi-Fi. We 100% need backup plans for when the tech fails, which, by the way, is where that without AI baseline becomes a lifesaver. And we really have to be mindful of the emotional load all of this puts on both our students and ourselves as teachers. So let's bring this all home. This entire philosophy, from the core principles right down to the practical frameworks, it's all about reinforcing one single central purpose. As this says, the goal is not to make classes flashier, but to make them more humanly sustainable. This is so, so important. We're not using AI to create more busy work or some kind of dazzling tech demo. We're using it to strip away the tedium, to free up our time and energy for what actually matters, coaching those durable human skills and building deeper human connections. So the final question really is for you. As you look at your own work, your own teaching, or heck, even your own learning, how will you make sure that you're building ladders and not crutches? That's the real challenge and honestly, the incredible opportunity that's sitting right in front of all of us.